I really don't have anything clever for this one, so welcome back to AM2R. We've dug further down into the Cordite mines here, and honestly this is not a very big area. There's only 2 Metroids, and really these branching paths off to the left and right are the deepest we go in this place, so there's not really a ton to do here. But that's not to say there's nothing of interest down here. This alpha definitely isn't part of that, though. It's an alpha. What are you gonna do? Only takes a few missiles with supers in tow, so hey, nothing terribly remarkable. Yeah, you can space jump across those giant pits of lava if you really want to, but shine sparking I just find is easier to do since you have plenty of room to build it up, and that way you don't have to worry about these red bubbles hindering your movement at all. See, they actually will catch you in the air and make you fall very, very slowly, so getting caught by one of them in a bad situation like that can be a pain in the butt. They don't really show up very often, though. In fact, I think this might actually be the only place in the game they do show up, so if you can survive through this, you don't really have to worry about them ever again, so hey. Unfortunately, unlike the Gamma in the Industrial Complex, this one is very much willing to follow you right down into the lava, so if you think hanging down there will keep you safe, think again, you're just going to be taking a lot more damage from that. Although, I actually still prefer to go down there because you don't have to deal with the red bubbles that way. And honestly, the red bubbles are what makes fighting that Gamma truly a pain, just because you have to then deal with how it's messing around with your jumps and even just your horizontal movement, and it's a huge pain, and I really find it way easier to get hits from the bottom anyways, so well, that's all the Metroids down here taken care of, which means it's actually time for us to head on to the next area. You got a bit of backtracking to do, but thankfully this area not being super huge means this won't exactly take a super long time. Now, despite being called the Cordite Mines, a substance that was not mentioned nor present anywhere in the original Metroid 2, this place is still based on an area that was in the original game. There was a section in the original game where you would go down a pit of lava and follow the tunnel down to a similar area which would lead to a branching path with 2 more Metroids. The interesting thing about that area, and really the only remarkable thing about it besides the Metroids being there, if you try and draw Metroid 2's original map onto a piece of paper, graph or otherwise, or some other such thing, you will find that it's not very possible, because there are many places, of which that section is one of, that overlap with already used squares, more or less. It's tough to display without a visual example, but essentially, because of this and the fact that AM2R actually has a map feature, one that is decipherable and makes sense, they did have to kind of screw around a bit with the layout of the rooms and the halls and all that, so that there wouldn't be some massive overlap between areas. This is honestly the biggest change besides natural area expansions that AM2R does to the map design, because besides that, it's generally quite faithful to the layout of the original game, even down to the relative number of screens that a lot of areas actually physically take up on the map. Which I suppose, depending on your perception, could either be a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like this game does plenty enough with the level design to differentiate it. And again, with Metroid 2's level design, there's really only one way you can go, and that's up. And these enemies I find to be not the most annoying in the game, but one of the most. They're not difficult to deal with. You can literally just sit out of reach and kill them completely safely, actually. But I get so impatient that I end up just taking hits on them anyways, and sometimes you don't want to slow down, you know? Sometimes you want to just blast through everything, and those guys are just kind of a stop to it, really. But anyways, this wall we're technically supposed to get to from a different way, because all of these platforms, and even a few in this room over here, are speed boostable, so you're, I guess, technically intended to come at it from this direction. But there's absolutely nothing stopping you from getting a shine up top and doing that, so. Those rocks are an interesting case because they are very out of place and strange. They only exist in that one screen, in that one instance, and you can do any number of things to get rid of them. They were also present in the original game, however, and served basically the exact same function. I do not know what their purpose was, but they damn well wanted to keep those there for one reason or another. But now we're definitely in some sort of facility, but it seems to have lost power. In the original game, this tower structure that we're on right now was actually a location where you could find every single beam upgrade in the game, because beams didn't stack in the original Metroid 2, so they created this area as sort of a hub where you could pick and choose a beam for, for your convenience to carry through the rest of the game, basically. And speaking of beams, it looks like we have a little present up there for us, but we can't actually get to it right now because the doors don't have any power. But honestly, does Samus really have any need for doors when she can just use the floor? I mean, realistically here, if you had to pick between taking the stairs and phasing through the floor, you're gonna take phasing through the floor every time just for the style points, right? Well, looks like we've managed to find our way to the heart of this place. And as Chozo design dictates, the on switch for all of your ancient technology has to be orb-shaped. Well, the place is certainly looking a lot brighter now, that much is sure. It's almost like a disco party in here. Yeah, the towers essentially come to life at this point. We can see these repair drones going around fixing things up in the tower, and these security robots that have entirely too much health for my taste. Seriously, this thing is going to take like a million shots. You'd almost think it could be a mini-boss with how much health it has relative to how good our beam is right now. Honestly, I would honestly say just run away from them because they're that beefy and it's just not worth it. The same goes for these enemies because they have a shield right in front of them, so like barely any of your shots are actually going to hit them. We came down this pathway before, but now that the power's on, we've got these, I'm not actually sure what they are, but they do shoot electricity, and electricity is pain, so just some proper timing will get you through there. But of course, getting out of here can't possibly be that easy. Remember how I mentioned all the weapons that you could find here in the original game? Well, they're still here, and they've taken the form of a whole new unique boss, the weapons tester. I actually really enjoyed this fight, even though certainly the name could use, some work. Although, granted, Metroid's had its fair share of unoriginal boss names, like everything in Prime 2, basically, so. This is mostly a bullet hell boss fight, honestly. It's very possible to avoid these ice beam attacks, but I have a lot of health, and the refills in this fight are fairly generous, so I'm not too concerned about it. This fight can go rather quickly if you know how to deal with it, so I'm going to try and keep up here. Essentially, you've got two things that you need to deal with. The outer plating, which you can destroy with missiles, and then the force field in the center that you destroy with the beam. After that, you can just wail on it with whatever you got. The difference between this fight on normal and hard mode is that the force field and all that will actually regenerate over time, so you'll have to re-destroy it if you want to get more shots in. In normal mode, it just stays off. And you don't need to destroy all of the outer plating either. You only really need to get rid of one bit, just so that you can have a clear shot at the core, and once you've done that, it's pretty much just a matter of unloading into it with everything you have. You can get super missile drops from destroying the cannons, although they do regenerate every time. And I like this fight a lot because it forces you to play an aerial game in a very different way from the Chozo fight, and I really like that. There is a way you can cheese this boss with a later item, but we don't have that item right now. I might show it off later though, because it is a very fun quick kill, I will say that much. Yeah, at this point we've beaten the boss. There's no real reason to stick around here and deal with these losers, so let's just get up top and claim ourselves our reward now that the doors are back online. The Plasma Beam. Not only does it go right through enemies, but because of that property, anything with a shield is basically completely vulnerable to us at this point. Everything and anything. And for reasons that I honestly don't know, the music cut out when I picked up the Plasma Beam. It's very strange. I've never had that issue before. Recording this was literally the first time that issue ever happened to me. So I don't know what was up with that, but easy to fix, so. But normal enemies at this point just don't stand a chance, and it's only going to get crazier from here with later items, trust me. But with that said, we've got the Plasma Beam and we've made it to the 4th major area, so I think this is a good stopping point. See you guys next time when we meet a new, deadlier threat. See you then.